Every sailor knew the rule. If you see 3 flashes from the lighthouse in the fog, turn back immediately, because the sea is about to take someone. In old fishing villages, people rarely argue with the sea. The sea is always right. Far to the north, where the waves looked almost black and the cliffs rose like the teeth of some ancient beast, there stood a lonely lighthouse. People called it the Grey Sentinel. No one remembered exactly when it appeared. It wasn't on the old maps. Sometimes it vanished from the new ones too, as if the lighthouse chose for itself who was allowed to see it. But every sailor knew one rule. If you see 3 short flashes from the Grey Sentinel in the fog at night, change your course immediately. Otherwise, the sea will take you. In the autumn of 1978, a young painter named Alexei arrived in the village beneath the cliffs. He was quiet, withdrawn, and always carried a worn wooden box filled with paints and brushes. People whispered that he had survived a terrible tragedy years earlier. After that, he stopped painting people altogether. Only the sea, only empty shores, only storms. He rented a room in the home of an old woman named Martha, one of the last people left who remembered the village before it began to fade away. On his very first night, Alexei heard a strange sound. Not wind, not waves. It sounded like a giant iron bell striking somewhere far out at sea. Boom, boom, boom. He walked to the window. Through the thick fog, far beyond the rocks, a light appeared. 3 short flashes, then darkness again. Don't stare at it too long, Martha said quietly behind him. Alexei turned sharply. The old woman stood in the doorway holding a kerosene lamp. Is that the lighthouse? He asked. Martha nodded slowly. The Grey Sentinel. Why does no one talk about it? The old woman hesitated. Because it only lights up before someone dies. The next morning, Alexei walked down to the cliffs. The sea was calm, strangely calm. Even the seagulls barely made a sound. He set up his easel near the edge and began to paint. The grey sky, the dark water, the distant lighthouse rising through the mist. But something felt wrong. The painting seemed too alive, as if he wasn't painting the sea. But the sea was painting itself through him. Then he noticed someone standing farther down the rocks. A young woman in a long grey coat. Her hair whipped violently in the wind. She stood perfectly still, staring toward the lighthouse. Alexei called out to her, but she didn't move. He quickly grabbed his brushes and climbed down toward the rocks. But when he reached the place where she had stood, no one was there. Only wet footprints, bare footprints, leading straight into the ocean and stopping there. That evening, Alexei asked about the girl in the village tavern. The room instantly fell silent. An old fisherman named Ilya crossed himself nervously. You saw her? Saw who? The girl by the sea. Alexei nodded. The fisherman's face lost all color. Then the lighthouse has awakened again. Later that night, Ilya told him the story the village tried to forget. Many years earlier, the lighthouse keeper had been a man named Gregor. He lived in the tower with his daughter, Anna. People said she could predict storms before they came. But one night, several fishermen ignored her warning and sailed out anyway. A terrible storm struck before dawn. None of the boats returned. After that, fear spread through the village. The people blamed Gregor and Anna for witchcraft. One night, they climbed the cliffs carrying torches. No one knows exactly what happened inside the lighthouse. But by morning, Gregor had vanished, and Anna was found dead among the rocks below. Since then, Before every great storm, villagers claimed they saw a young woman standing near the sea, and the lighthouse lit itself. That night, Alexei couldn't sleep. The wind howled outside his window. Then he heard the bell again. 3 heavy strikes, and once more, 3 flashes in the fog. He grabbed his coat and ran outside. Rain slashed across his face as he followed the narrow cliff path through the darkness. Then, he saw her. The girl stood at the edge of the cliff. Her grey coat twisted wildly in the storm wind. "Who are you?" Alexei shouted. She slowly turned toward him. Her face was pale, almost transparent, but her eyes looked painfully alive. "You paint the sea again," she said softly. "Do I know you?" "No, but the sea knows you." A cold shiver crawled down his spine. "Are you Anna?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked toward the lighthouse. And then Alexei saw it, a light burning inside the tower, even though the lighthouse had been abandoned for decades. "Don't go there," Anna whispered. But Alexei had already taken a step forward. The next morning, he found an old boat. The fishermen refused to take him to the island, so he rowed there alone. The sea was unnaturally still, as though it were waiting. When he reached the island, he noticed black scorch marks staining the lighthouse walls. The front door stood open. Inside, the air smelled of salt, rust and damp stone. He climbed the spiral staircase slowly. Every step creaked like the tower itself was breathing. At the top, he entered the keeper's room. Dust, a rusted lantern, an old wooden desk, and paintings, dozens of them. Every canvas showed the sea. But the terrifying part was this: every storm looked exactly the same, as if the painter had spent years recreating one endless night. Then, Alexei froze. On the final canvas, he saw a small boat approaching the lighthouse. His boat, and standing near the tower, was himself. He spun around, no one there. But above him, in the lantern room, footsteps echoed slowly overhead. Heavy, measured, waiting. Alexei climbed higher. An old man stood inside the lantern room, tall, thin, wearing a soaked black coat, his face hidden in shadow. "You're late," the old man said quietly. "Who are you?" "The keeper." "But this lighthouse has been abandoned for years." The old man smiled faintly. "For the living, yes." A violent gust rattled the glass walls around them. Far below, the ocean began to darken. "A storm is coming tonight," the keeper said. "The worst in many years." "Why does the lighthouse light up before storms?" The old man remained silent for a long moment. "Because it warns them." "Warns them about what?" The keeper slowly raised his eyes. "That the sea is hungry." Then he told Alexei the truth no one in the village knew. Beneath the cliffs were ancient underwater caverns. During violent storms, entire ships disappeared there without a trace. People once believed a crack existed deep below the ocean floor, a place where the sea itself opened. And sometimes, something came through. For generations, lighthouse keepers maintained the flame to hold whatever lived below trapped in the darkness beneath the water. But after the villagers killed Anna, Gregor let the lighthouse go dark. That same night, the sea swallowed an entire fleet. Gregor stayed behind afterward, not alive, not dead, guarding the abyss forever. Suddenly, the tower shook violently. A deafening roar rose from below. Alexei rushed to the window. The ocean was spinning. Directly beneath the lighthouse, the water twisted into a massive black vortex, and deep inside it, something moved. Something enormous, not a fish, not a ship, something older. Gregor calmly lit the lantern. Help me. What is that thing? The kind of thing humans were never meant to see. A gigantic wave slammed against the cliffs. The glass trembled violently. If the light goes out, Gregor said, the storm will reach the village. For the first time in years, Alexei felt true fear, not fear of darkness. Something older, the primal terror every human feels before the sea. Gregor handed him a box of matches. The flame must never die. The wind screamed around the tower like thousands of distant voices. The lantern flickered weakly, then suddenly. The door burst open. Freezing wind exploded into the room. The flame died instantly. Darkness swallowed everything. And below them, the sea roared. The entire lighthouse trembled. Then Alexei heard it. A sound beneath the water. Breathing, slow, massive, ancient. And then he saw the eyes, far below in the storm. Two enormous glowing eyes staring upward through the waves. "Light it!" Gregor shouted. But the matches were soaked. Alexei's hand shook violently. Below them, waves crashed higher and higher against the cliffs. The village would be gone within minutes. Then Anna appeared beside him, perfectly calm amid the chaos. "You're a painter," she whispered. "Remember?" Alexei stared at her in confusion. Anna pointed toward a blank canvas resting against the wall. "Paint the light." "What? Hurry!" He grabbed a brush instinctively. White paint, yellow, gold, wild strokes across the canvas, and with every movement, the wind weakened. The lantern above them suddenly burst into light on its own. The painting itself began to glow. Real light. Alexei stepped backward in horror. The lighthouse beam erupted across the storm so brightly it split the darkness apart. The sea screamed. Not waves, not thunder. A scream. The vortex beneath the tower began to collapse. The shape beneath the water disappeared. Slowly, the storm faded away. By morning, the sea was calm again. Sunlight spread across the wet cliffs. Alexei woke lying near the shore. Martha sat beside him silently. "You came back," she said softly. "What about Gregor?" "Anna." The old woman lowered her eyes. "Sometimes the dead remain until their work is finished." "Is the lighthouse still burning?" Martha looked out toward the sea. The grey sentinel stood dark and empty, as though it had never lit at all. A few days later, Alexei left the village, but before he departed, he left one painting hanging inside the tavern. It showed the grey sentinel standing against the storm, and a strange light burning inside the tower. People claimed the painting changed at night. Sometimes the silhouette of a young woman appeared in the lighthouse window. Other times, an old keeper holding a lantern. But the strangest thing happened before storms. A few hours before the weather turned, the light inside the painting would begin to flicker. 3 short flashes, like a warning. Years passed. The painting changed owners many times. Some called it a legend, others called it cursed. But sailors still remembered the old rule. If you see 3 flashes from the grey sentinel in the fog at night, change your course, because the sea never forgets. And somewhere far beyond the black waves and cold mist, the old lighthouse is still waiting for the next storm.
Thank you for listening to my story to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. Watch it to the end and see the finished painting, which I also painted.